What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. Mike is on. We are hot. We're off to a great start here. If you missed Friday's episode, we did not start with our mic on, so we're off to a good start here. August 21st, Mean Streets live on Game Plus Network, iTunes, Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to your favorite podcast. Also live on our FTN Network YouTube page. Chris Meaney hanging out with you, and I do appreciate you guys taking the time to hang out with me here on this Monday as well. If you're watching live, I see some few people are. Smash the like button. You have any comments, any questions, you can leave them there. A lot of Keeper League stuff. People are sliding in the DMs. It's cool. At Chris Meaney, slide on in. meanstreetsftn@gmail.com. If you have any Keeper League questions, any Dynasty questions, redraft questions, anything. Maybe you have a couple of hockey questions. Anything, I am here for you guys. Always circling back on these videos as well to address any questions that you do have. If you are watching on Game Plus Network and you're just stumbling across the show, we always appreciate you. Fantastic lineup on Game Plus Network, and I'm pretty happy to be part of that lineup as well. Jake Seeley, All in Football, with himself and Lauren Carpenter this morning. Jake's moved his shows to Mondays and Wednesdays. Monday with Lauren, and on Mondays he's really just going to hit up on some waiver wire stuff, and on Wednesdays in season, him and I will get together. We'll talk some rankings and things like that. We still have our Sirius XM Fantasy Sports radio show, channel 87, every Saturday from 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern time. We talked about our sleepers. You can go back and listen on demand if you want to as well. Today, we are going to talk some NFL preseason takeaways. Week 2, one more week here of preseason action, then a couple weeks off, and we'll get into the NFL season. It's here. It is draft season. We've done a lot of drafts over the past few days. Actually, the past several weeks, we've done every single team preview, division previews, sleepers, busts. This week, I'm going to just kind of recap my targets, my fades, strategy behind best ball. If you're still doing some best ball stuff, just going to take care of everybody, because I know this is a big week and this is a big draft weekend as well. Over the past weekend, I took part in a Sirius XM Fantasy Sports host draft, NBA Rigged in the House, Mean Street, the show of all shows. We do appreciate you. What's up, NBA Rigged? Happy morning to you as well. Deesh in the house as well. One of the weirdest draft experiences of his life. Had a draft Thursday, custom order. After the first round, it completely randomized the order on Yahoo. That's weird. So you like round 1 was different than all the other rounds? That's strange. Sleeper's where it's at. I really like Sleeper's been fantastic to me over the past couple years, and I feel like their updates, when you're subscribed and you have the notifications on, you get the updates pretty quickly. I like that. I dig that. You know, sometimes it's tough to, I don't know, like Twitter's just so weird these days. X, you know, I'm following all these people and I don't see their tweets, and then all I see is tweets from people I don't follow. Like I don't follow them, so I don't want to see them. Like, it's nothing against them, but why am I seeing them? So I don't know. I can't. Twitter's weird. So if you're looking for updates, like NFL updates, of course, ftnfantasy.com. We have all the updates. We have, you know, follow some of us over at ftnfantasy.com. You know, these shows, Jake's show, you know, a ton of content on our FTN Network YouTube page. But the Sleeper app is fantastic, I think, for drafting in season. I think it's super cool. And also the updates. The updates are awesome as well. And I saw one filter through here this morning about Devon Achane, who's considered week to week here. I actually don't have the latest. I think that's a positive. At the time, I thought maybe his season would be over, but week to week for Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson have been pretty decent late round flyers. I know they'll rise up draft boards now with this news, but also like ever since Cook Welcome back in. Okay, I lost power, so we're going to start this show completely over again. Mean Streets, live on Game Plus Network. My bad. FTN Network, YouTube page, iTunes, Spotify. You guys know the drill. You've been hanging out here. Appreciate you. It's almost felt like I was watching... what was the movie the other night with Jim Carrey that was on TV? It was Bruce Almighty, when he's like trying to do the news and it's like the power goes out and he's like, no, it's back. Here we go. I was doing a little bit of that and it just wasn't working. So we're back here and Todd Whitestone is in the house as well. So we'll just get to Todd here in a minute or so. We had him lined up for 12:30 Eastern. So we'll bear with me, guys. Appreciate it. There's a lot of football talk. I want to have a conversation with you guys. I see some questions. I want to get to some preseason takeaway stuff. We're going to talk some tight end rankings and tiers. We're going to start with a target a day here. We'll start kind of in the mid rounds with a running back, but a lot of fantasy football talk on the show and leading up to week one. So if Todd, I see Todd is getting ready here. So we'll get you set up, Whitestone. And when you're good to go, give me the thumbs up and we'll get, he's good. So George, let's bring him in. We'll have a little bit of a baseball talk here with Todd. We'll get to the football talk in a little bit, so bear with us here. Let's bring in Mr. Todd Whitestone of FTNFantasy.com. Article live over at FTNFantasy.com every Monday. I'm sure your Monday's going a little bit better than mine. I don't know. Like it just always seems to be raining and windy and storming on the East Coast, and the power just went for a quick second. Bats, happy Monday. Welcome in, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to be in at the beginning of football season, but there's still some baseball to be played and some exciting fantasy seasons as well as regular baseball seasons.
Are you as deep into the fantasy football as you are fantasy baseball? Are you following trends and drafting?
Not as much, but I do get some teams, of course. I mean, this is North America, right? So you gotta draft some football teams. So yes, I do a little bit of it, but I don't feel I'm as expert in that area for sure.
Well, you are, and when it comes to baseball, that's for sure. Your work has been fantastic all year long, and
thank you.
I've got a lot of positive feedback of you joining in the shows on Monday and taking care of people that aren't always playing in high stakes leagues, and that's conversations you and I have had all year long. So we're winding down. I know in straight up like head-to-head formats, there are 1, maybe 2 weeks left until head-to-head fantasy baseball playoffs, quarters, semis, and the championship. One of my leagues actually wraps up. It's a 2-week finals. Guy that's been running the league. He likes to get it out of the way kind of before football starts, and also like there's a bunch of like sometimes random call-ups, at this time of the season as well. So he kind of shortens the season, but those playing in high stakes and rotisserie leagues still got a few weeks here to wrap up the Major League Baseball season. So who are some of the hot waiver wire pickups in high stakes leagues here late last night?
So Noelvi Marte, who's yet another Cincinnati rookie, it was brought up. So he was sort of the big target for people. I'm not sure how much he's going to play, to be honest with you. He's a great talent, and he'll be great in a few years. But the Reds have a lot of guys, to try to fit in, and I'm just not sure whether that's going to be the winning ticket or not. A lot of these guys, you have to ask yourself, Chris, are they better than the veterans that are coming back from injury? Are you better off trying to pick them up because they have a proven track record? And sometimes it depends on the team situation. Like the Reds, they're going to take anybody that can help them win a few games. Another team might be just going only rookies. But it's a patchwork quilt. I would say there's no one big pickup that was really moving the needle as far as I could tell.
And that's it kind of feels like, not that happens every time at this time of the season, but everyone's got their roster set. Like if you're fighting for top spot in a rotisserie league, if you're in a head-to-head format, maybe you're thinking you're trying to kind of cover your bases. Maybe you're cutting ties with certain players, and maybe you're picking up another reliever or you're picking up another pitcher. You definitely want to be ahead of 2 starts when it comes to head-to-head formats. You want to have a couple 2-star pitchers in there as well. So it does feel like this is kind of the time of the year. The most added player in Yahoo leagues is like Eddie Rosario.
Well, he was on fire.
Rewind 6 weeks ago and he was one of the most added, right? It's been him and every other Brave in there, whether it's Ozuna, have been hot fire, cold as ice, and then back off fire. I mean, the Braves are baseball, so get a piece of it if you can, right?
I mean, to underscore your point, Stone Garrett, who plays for the Washington Nationals, he was on fire, and he's a much deeper league guy than Eddie Rosario, but he was picked up in a lot of leagues because people are just trying to ride him for a week or two and get, a few base hits and RBIs.
Spencer Torkelson, I know that this guy is already owned in high stakes leagues, but 55% ownership and still not high enough. Pablo Reyes for the Red Sox has got second and short eligibility. His ownership in Yahoo is 9%. Diaz for Houston, he's hovering around 33%. I mentioned Eddie Rosario, the most picked up bat here as of today. How about Nolan Shanuel? Like, have you ever seen anything like that before in your life? It was the first position player since like 1978, 79, I think, with the Blue Jays to be drafted and then play in the same year. We've seen some pitchers do it. I think 2020, there was a pitcher maybe for the White Sox. I forget his name right now, but a position player. Right. The path for this kid. I mean, he played Florida Atlantic in May, drafted in July. I think 2 games of high A ball, 3 of single A, 21 of double A. And then he's leading off in front of Shohei Ohtani over the weekend for the Angels. I mean, how desperate is this squad? Any interest in him at all?
I mean, I think it's possible. I mean, if they're going to bet him leadoff, you have to be interested because, anybody can be hot for a week or two. And if he's there, he's going to score runs. But I don't think it's quite fair to the kid because, he would, like you said, he's got more experience at Florida Atlantic than he does in the minor leagues. But look, he's talented. I just think odds are that he won't do great, but I mean, the Angels, like you said, they're just hoping for a miracle. They want to get into the playoffs, and I don't even know if that's going to save this Ohtani situation, but more power to them. They're trying for it. I think it's going to end up that they're coming short.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, he put together a couple really nice bats. I mean, he's a guy that's super patient at the plate. I mean, he walked a couple times. He picked up a hit. He scored a run. Ohtani had a grand slam. But he has been one of the most added as well. And I assume that's just deeper formats. But we'll keep an eye on him if he is going to continue to lead off with the squad and get on base and set the table with Trout coming back. Maybe he can have some sneaky value there. Any pitchers, any arms that you're interested in, or you can help people out here?
I mean, in high stakes, a guy named Javier Assad for the Cubs. He has a very good 2-start week this week. He has the matchups I don't remember exactly, but they're like Detroit and KC. So he was picked up largely. Cole Irvin for the Baltimore Orioles was a target. But I mean, I think in Yahoo leagues and ESPN leagues, you can scan the wire and find guys. And one thing, you can find guys even in high stakes leagues that were injured. Like we picked up Carlos Rodon, believe it or not, in a 12-team league, which was high stakes and competitive. So you just never know who's going to be there, and you just need to spend the time and comb through it. One other tip for the people listening, Chris, would be sort these stats by the last 7 to 10 days on Yahoo or ESPN, because that does not mean that the person is a great player if they're doing really well, but that means that the manager is likely to play them over the next few days. And at this point of the season, that's all you need. You need a guy that's going to be in the lineup.
Yeah, Assad has Detroit today, and I believe he'll get Pittsburgh later on in the week as well. So pretty good start there if you're looking. Speaking of sorting over the last week, we have to talk about Julio Rodriguez for 1 second before we get you out of here. I mean, unbelievable stuff from Julio. Here in the month of August, he's slashing 412, 444, 659. He's got the 1.103 OPS. He's got 35 hits, including 9 doubles, 4 homers, and 9 stolen bases in this month. I took him and first overall in one league, and I'm like, oh man, like why did I do this? Because he was really struggling before the All-Star break. But what he's doing here over this run is spectacular. He had racked up 17 hits over a 4-game span last week, the most over a 4-game span since like 1901. He's got a matchup again tonight against Touki Toussaint, who's been walking like nearly 7 batters per 9 innings. So
Right.
I don't know what you think about this before we get you out of here. If you think about this little pick today of the Mariners over 4.5 runs at
Well,
minus 122, they're feeling it at the moment, aren't they?
they're on fire. I mean, my son lives in Seattle, and they've won 22 of 29 games, and now they're the third wild card. And, they have a history, Chris, of being very streaky. And Julio certainly carrying them, but I think they could ride it all the way into the playoffs. I mean, Toronto and the other teams, even Boston, are not really firing on all cylinders. So, I would say they certainly have a chance. And Julio tonight, I mean, the big fear if you're going to bet on him is whether he just gets walked by Tucson. I mean,
it's possible.
He might just not get a chance to hit, but other than that, I mean, he's seeing the ball as if it's a basketball, and he can hit it out of the park at any moment.
We're going to get to some football talk here in a second. But, Mariners over 4.5 runs. Free article by myself over at ftnbets.com. And another one, too, for the Bet365 users. Mm-hmm. A same-game parlay, Luis Castillo for 5+ strikeouts against the White Sox. And then the Mariners money line included there. Yeah, they may not even pitch to him. I mean, why would you? But for Touki Toussaint, as I mentioned, 6.22 walks per 9, 37 batters in 50 innings. He's issued at least 4 free passes in 3 straight starts and 6 of his last 7. He's walked at least 4 batters in 6 of his 8 starts overall. So when you're just walking that many guys, you can just give up a crooked number pretty easily. You mentioned the Mariners, the run that they're on. I mean, they just swept Houston. They've racked up 6 straight wins. And they've outscored their opponents over that span 41-26. So it's not just Julio. A lot of guys are getting on base. They're scoring some runs, and the pitching is good. And the White Sox, I mean, their ERA as a bullpen is the 5th highest, and it's even higher over the last month at 4.92, the ERA. So we'll get you out of here on this. A question here from one of our viewers, and then we'll get into the football talk because I know a lot of people wanted to talk some football here. So, Todd, who is your American League dark horse team not currently at the top of the division standings, but will make it to the American League championship round? I don't know if there's anybody that is going to make it to the ALCS that's not in the playoffs, but who's your dark horse in the AL?
Well, I wouldn't say they're going to make it to the championship round, but I wouldn't count out the Red Sox because the pitching staff is really pretty good right now. I mentioned this a few weeks ago with you. I do think they have a shot. If you were looking for a long shot to get to the ALCS or make the playoffs, I think the Red Sox could be a good bet because I think they have the tools. They have the pitching. They have at least 5 guys that can win them a game. So that's who I would pick if you're looking for longer odds. I mean, the Mariners, I'm kind of rooting for because my son is there, but they certainly have a chance to make it if they stay hot as well.
George is in there laughing. He's a Red Sox fan. I could see him. You see him on the bottom of the screen there? He's just laughing. He's just like, no chance. He doesn't feel them. He's not confident. Okay. Most Red Sox fans are pretty confident, Todd, but I guess he's not feeling it. He's not drinking the Red Sox Kool-Aid.
That's it. Well, I think it'll be exciting. There's the wild card races in both leagues are going to be right down to the wire. And so I would stay tuned if you're a baseball fan, even though I know football is just starting up. There's going to be a lot of exciting contests in the next month or so.
This is actually the time of the year where you could maybe gain some ground on some people because they've turned the page to football. Maybe they're not having a great, a great season. And to your point, I mean, you pick up Carlos Rodon in a high stakes league. It happens in those formats. It happens in a ton of formats. So this is the time maybe where you can gain some ground. If you guys have any questions at all, Telstar 7 on the Twitter machine. Check out the article for free over at ftnfantasy.com. We'll chop it up in a little bit. Maybe when we get closer to the end of the season, Todd, we can talk some World Series odds and get some predictions out of you as well. And this isn't what you want to see on the way out. When will the Yankees losing streak end? We're not trying to get you out on a sour note, but here you are talking up the Red Sox.
Yeah, it's sad. It's
not
sad.
so much about your pinstripes.
Yeah. I knew it, but I told you early in the season it did not look good even then. So it's not a good year, but maybe it'll make them reset. It's probably better for the organization that they have a really bad year and instead of squeaking into the playoffs and losing, because now they'll have to face the facts, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Todd, we appreciate you, man. Thanks so much. Sorry about the mishap with the power outage and things like that, but
Okay.
we always appreciate you on a Monday. Have
Thank
a great
you.
day. We'll talk to you soon. All right, Todd Whitestone there, Telstar 7, and George is not drinking the Red Sox Kool-Aid, but I kind of am. I think that they could squeak in, but I don't know who comes out. Like, I just don't know who comes out. It's like Seattle or Boston. Tampa's locked in. I have a hard time believing the Astros won't make it. I've wanted to go to Camden for. It's a high on the list. It's high on the list. It's on the bucket list. Got to go. If they win the title, would you go visit? Yeah, I guess so. If they win the World Series, I'll go visit. I'll be right there in the parade with MLB Dream. We'll be having a great time. We'll be having a great time. All right, so my bad for the way that the show started here with the power outage and things like that. But there's a lot here that I want to address with you guys. I want to talk some preseason takeaway stuff. I want to show you the hosts draft, the Sirius hosts draft. I took part on Saturday. Some really sharp people. So we'll show you that draft in a second. We'll show my team. And then I wanted to get into some tight end rankings and tiers with you guys as well, and just the strategy behind it. We don't have to spend a whole lot of time because it is the tight end position, but it's the last of the positions. We've done quarterback rankings and tiers and running backs and wide receivers. If you're looking for those videos, you can go back and watch them on our FTN Network YouTube page or on iTunes and Spotify, all that good stuff. So let's just hit on some preseason stuff here off the hop. So Devon Achane is considered week to week, and what I was saying before the power went out was that I'm just trying to get the latest on A-Chain, and I did see that on Sleeper. It is week to week here. So what I was saying about Mostert, and I was a little hesitant to draft them in best ball formats and drafting, weeks ago, because we've been drafting all off season here. I will share the link here in a second there with you, but we do have the board that we can bring up as well in just a moment. So a little hesitant to draft Raheem Mostert or Jeff Wilson. I wanted to take that upside flyer in Devon Achane, but I was hesitant because of guys like Dalvin Cook and Zeke. I just didn't know, and still, I guess it's possible Miami brings in a Leonard Fournette potentially. They could do something like that. Kareem Hunt is still out there as well. It's very possible they can go that route. I mean, Mike McDaniel coming from Kyle Shanahan and a history of utilizing all these different running backs and bringing in guys that he was familiar with, and Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert as well. But those guys have turned out so far to be pretty decent picks, especially now with Devon Achane expected to be sidelined. He's considered week to week. So I just don't know when he's going to come back. And plus a rookie, it's really tough for these rookie running backs. You got to learn the playbook. You got to overpower some of the veterans inside the offense. Miami's got, Super Bowl aspirations. They have a high win total. I know Tua hasn't looked fantastic here to start preseason, but this is a team that's got some pieces right on the squad, and they should be pretty competitive. And now it's just tough for Achane, when he comes back and he's healthy. I think you just have to pretty much cross him off your list. Maybe you want to take him as the last pick. I don't know how your league's going to work, if he's placed on IR, if you have an IR spot, things like that. So that's bad news for sure. Some of these things that, people are talking about here on Twitter, like Dameon Pierce, got to move up Dameon Pierce in my rankings because he's playing 100% of the snaps with the first team offense. Like, I don't want to discredit anyone or come across as like a know-it-all, and because I don't, but some of these things are not surprising at all. So like Dameon Pierce, I haven't adjusted at all in my rankings. He's a solid RB2. I expect him to get first and second down opportunities. I don't expect Singletary to come in and steal a whole lot from him. I did expect Singletary to kind of play maybe a third down role. Doesn't look like that so far here in camp, but Dameon Pierce, we did this last year. Like, he is good. He's better than where he was drafted in real life NFL. I know he popped off in the Senior Bowl last year. There was really no opportunity. Well, there was opportunity, but there was really no competition for him. Like, he is going to get all the touches that he can handle in his sophomore season. It remains to be seen how many, targets, how many catches he's going to have, how involved he will be in a third down situation. I know CJ Stroud hasn't looked great. I don't want to overreact too much here. CJ Stroud is not going to be a guy that we're starting in redraft fantasy football, one quarterback. He's probably not going to be a guy that, you're starting in Superflex as two quarterbacks. He's a guy that's on your third quarterback. Injuries are going to happen. Maybe he surprises us a little bit. I still like him overall as a quarterback. I think he's going to be very accurate. I think in dynasty leagues, maybe it's an opportunity to buy low. People just overreact all the time when it comes to preseason stuff. But For me, I do like Dameon Pierce. I think he's got top 15 upside at the position. I think he's a good target when there's a lot of question marks at the running back position. Like, for example, Travis Etienne. I like Etienne. I'm not surprised to see Tank Bigsby looking good in preseason. Coaches talking him up. We like Tank Bigsby on this show. He is going to be a pain in Travis Etienne's side this season. There's no question about it. He really will be. Last year, we saw Travis Etienne struggle at times inside the red zone. This is his third year in the NFL. He's been hurt twice. He missed a full season. His first full season, he missed it. I don't know if he's a back that can handle 20-plus touches week in and week out. Doug Peterson has a history of using multiple running backs when they won the Super Bowl in Philadelphia in 2017. He used them all. Jay Ajayi, LeGarrette Blount, Corey Clement. Like, he used all of these backs. Etienne is going to be the lead. There's not going to be a lot of stacked boxes. He doesn't need 20 touches to be an RB2. I do believe that there's going to be times where his first and second down work is taken, like Jermichael Hasty took it last year. You know, we saw Trevor Lawrence call his own number inside the red zone last year, more so in his rookie season. New regime, new coaching regime. They drafted a guy that they liked here this past year in Tank Bigsby, and Bigsby's pretty good. Like, he's good in short yardage situations. He's running routes. He's catching passes. So I'm not saying to completely cross Travis Etienne off your list. Just, I think Tank Bigsby's a pretty decent pick in the middle rounds of your draft. So wanted to give him some love. Wanted to give Zach Charbonnet some love. Not surprised that he's already the number 2 running back inside this offense. Again, these things are not surprising me that he's getting snaps and playing over DJ Dallas. Like, they drafted him in the second round. They wouldn't if they liked DJ Dallas. I do have some concerns about Kenneth Walker. I've addressed them on the show in case you're just stumbling across. Kenneth Walker last year, really explosive, which is great to see. A majority of his runs, came in the explosive part of his game. He struggled in short yardage situations. I think he was 3 for 9 inside the 5. He doesn't run any routes. He's not going to get any targets. I think this offense will be a little bit more pass happy than we've normally seen it in the past. With Dave Cannell's now gone, the offensive coordinator in Tampa Bay. He was there for 13 years. Did a great job as a run-first offense. Drafted Jackson Smith-Njigba, who, by the way, is running routes every time, Geno is dropping back and Tyler Lockett is playing. So we got to feel good about this offense. I really like the Seahawks as a squad. I think I said it a couple times. I think that they will compete in the division with the Niners. I think they're a playoff squad. I like their over 8.5 win total. I think that they can get 9 or 10 wins again this season. Love Geno as a quarterback. Just Kenneth Walker he's a fade for me. I'm worried that I don't want to draft a guy going roughly top 15 at the position who potentially could be in a timeshare with Zach Charbonnet. Just the fact that they drafted him again in the second round, he kind of projects more as a bell cow back for me. I think not only will he get some targets and run some routes in third down situations, but I think he could potentially steal some first and second down opportunities. I also think he could take some goal line carries away from Kenneth Walker if he struggles in that situation. Again, Jaylen Warren looking great. Not surprised. Jaylen Warren definitely going to be the 2. How much is he going to take away from Najee Harris? He may take more away than we think. Tomlin has a history of just riding one running back. I mean, he's done it when Lev Bell got hurt with D'Angelo Williams. He did it with James Conner. He's done this quite a bit. Najee Harris's rookie season, like 100 targets and a ton of work. And Najee, didn't look himself at the start of the season, dealing with the Lisfranc injury. Towards the end of the season, he looked good. Jaylen Warren looked good towards the end of the season as well, getting some carries, getting some catches, a couple catches here and there down the stretch of the season. I still like Najee. I'm not ready to just write him off and say he's not going to be the lead, but this could turn into a 60-40, maybe a 70-30 split. Warren is a really good back. This is a good situation for Pittsburgh. Maybe Najee starts to fall down, but when you get to that range of running backs, again, it's like ETN in there. Breece Hall has fallen down draft boards like he should. I have him in the 20s now in terms of my running back rankings. Kenneth Walker, Aaron Jones. I like Aaron Jones as a back, but this is another guy, 6 rushing touchdowns over the last 2 years. big player in the receiving game. Is that going to continue and carry over here with Jordan Love? So there's some question. There's a lot of question marks actually when you get past. I mean, even Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Taylor have some question marks to them. And Jacobs, report this morning that he's going to, return to camp, be with the team before week 1. All I saw on Twitter this morning is just reasons not to draft Josh Jacobs. He's not with the team. Draft Zamir White. Like, this is overreaction. Like, I like Zamir White, but Josh Jacobs was never going to forfeit $500,000 for each game that he misses. It was just not going to happen. This guy wants to get paid. He wants the money. Yes, he's ticked off. Maybe when we get into the season and he's dealing with a shoulder injury, maybe he doesn't play. Where last year he powered through something like that. Maybe he doesn't play when he's 65% because of the contract and he wants to get paid next season. That is possible. He had a ton of carries, like 300 and some. He led the NFL in rushing yards. We can probably expect fewer carries, maybe fewer rushing yards, but he's a big-time player in the passing game. Jimmy G is going to check down to him just like Derek Carr checked down to him. We can't write him off in terms of game script like people did in the past. Oh, don't want to draft him in round. The first 2 years of his career, nobody wanted to draft him because he doesn't catch any passes and the Raiders are playing from behind. That's just not the case. We've seen him over the past couple of years be an elite pass catcher, and the Raiders will be playing from behind. Like, they have some nice appealing options on offense. They got a pass rush that I like, but the secondary is not fantastic. The AFC is loaded. I think they're going to be a bottom 5 team this year. Jacobs going to get some targets. So let's ease off the Jacobs hate. If you can get him in the 3rd, 4th round, and I'm a hero RB, punt RB too. I'm not really taking any running backs in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th round, maybe 5th. But if Jacobs is going to fall, Jonathan Taylor is going to fall to the 3rd, 4th round, at some point they become pretty valuable targets. Speaking of the Packers, Luke Musgrave, we'll talk about him a little bit more when we do the tight end rankings and tiers, but he is trending up. He's a guy that I've moved up my rankings. I haven't touched my rankings too much. I'm always updating and tinkering at FTNFantasy.com like all of us are, but I have moved Luke Musgrave up a touch. I think I have to. This is going to be a different offense. Of course, Jordan Love under center, really like a rookie, but not. He's been in the league for a few years. Has hardly seen him under center. But Christian Watson is a 2nd-year wide receiver. Romeo Doubs is a 2nd-year wide receiver. And then Jaden Reed, who caught a touchdown, is great. They got 2 rookie tight ends in Croft and Musgrave. Musgrave ran a route on 100% of the dropbacks from Jordan Love. And he looks like a player for Jordan Love in the middle of the field, which may cut into my love for Jaden Reed. But these Packers are completely undervalued, including Jordan Love, who I think is a great number 2 in Superflex leagues that you can wait it out on. Him and Brock Purdy are guys that I've been taking in Superflex leagues, and I soak up the value at the running back and wide receiver position early in drafts when everybody just goes heavy quarterback. So he is somebody that I noticed. James Cook, not surprised. James Cook is balling out. He looks good. Damian Harris is hurt, right? Damian Harris has been hurt multiple times, unfortunately for him, right? Cook is the guy to have in Buffalo, but at the same time, I'll show you the draft in a second. Damian Harris falling down outside of running back 45, there becomes a buying window there, an opportunity to get a guy linked to a top 5 offense who could be the goal line back. I don't expect him to have many games with over 10 carries. Buffalo doesn't even really run the football. But I do expect him, if he's healthy, to steal some touchdowns from James Cook. James Cook is a guy that I kind of view like ETN. I kind of view like Eckler, but not to that extent. Like, these guys don't need 20-plus carries. They just need 10 to 15 touches, couple catches of the backfield, linked to a good offense to be a strong flex play, maybe have some RB2 weeks. Greg Dulcich is a guy that I've moved down my draft board, my rankings. I like him a lot. I've talked a lot about him on this show over the past couple of years. My bad. Doesn't look great for him at the moment. He's playing behind Adam Trotman. Adam Trotman isn't a guy that I don't really like him either. Like, I mean, I like Greg Dulcich. I think Dulcich has the higher ceiling, but if he's not going to play, if he's playing behind Adam Trotman, then that's an issue. Mims is the 3rd. We're seeing Sutton and Jerry Jeudy run a ton of routes like they should with Russell Wilson. We've seen Russell Wilson under center here for the first couple games, the preseason games. It's great. Sean Payton wants to turn this thing around. Let's get after it right away. This is the worst offense in football last year. I thought that Dulcich would play a Jimmy Graham role for Sean Payton. I didn't think he'd be as good as Jimmy Graham, but I thought that he would. Adam Troutman is a guy that clearly Payton is familiar with. time in the Saints. He's like a guy that a lot of people thought, would break out, be a sleeper here. We've just really never seen anything from him consistently in the NFL to warrant our attention. But at the moment, I haven't moved him ahead of Dulcich, but I have moved down Dulcich, and I'll show you the tight end rankings in a little bit. Pacheco, still like him a lot. Get into him in a little bit as well, but playing 11 personnel, which is something he didn't do really at all last year. He's not blocking. Treylon Burks is sidelined for a little bit here. I still like Pacheco when all the attention's going to be on DeAndre Hopkins. And again, some more numbers to kind of back that up. Back to the Broncos for a second. Javonte Williams, first game since, I got it here, I tweeted it. First game since October 2nd. Touched the ball 4 times on the first drive. 3 catches, had a carry. He had 4 grabs on 5 targets. He had 7 touches for 40 yards in a quarter and a half. That's very encouraging. Very encouraging. If you remember last year with Russell Wilson, he played 4 games. He had 22 targets and 16 catches. He had a monster week one where he had like double-digit targets and catches. So a majority of that work in the passing game came in that week 1. But this is a great sign. And when I tweeted that, a lot of people talking about Samaje Perine being a better pass catcher. That's true. Samaje Perine is a good pass catching running back. He's a great 3-down back. He's great in pass pro. He's going to be involved. But let's not get discouraged here with Javonte, and let's not forget his ceiling and his upside. Remember his finish to his rookie season with Melvin Gordon. They're splitting time. He still had like over 900 rushing yards. I think he had like 40 some odd catches, like with Melvin Gordon there. We were drafting him this time last year, end of the first. We liked him as a rock solid RB1. He was well on his way, right? Despite that offense being the worst offense in football, he was on his way in terms of touches, opportunities, carries, red zone work, targets out of the backfield. Perine's still going to get his targets, still going to get his catches, but let's not cross Javonte Williams off our list. And also, let's not forget what Sean Payton did with Mark Ingram, what Sean Payton did with Alvin Kamara. Both of those guys were top 12 running backs a few years ago. Both of them were catching. They were splitting goal line work. They were splitting red zone work. They were both eating. That could happen here. That could certainly happen. Javonte Williams has been the biggest steal in drafts, in my opinion. He's been the biggest steal in drafts, and he's trending on Twitter. So don't tell me that something happened to him this morning. People are just talking about him. And this is exactly what I thought would happen. Right? We were taking him in the 9th and 10th round. Everybody was worried about him. Then he wasn't placed in the PUP list. He was cleared for contact. And he's playing in preseason games, and he's looking good. He's getting touches. He's getting catches. So he's rising up draft boards. He's been easily, in my opinion, the biggest steal in drafts in the summer, going in the 9th, 10th round. I've been taking him in the 6th. Multiple drafts have showed you guys. I've taken him in the 6th round. That's my preseason looks. I think I got everything in here. Preseason takeaways, those are it. Mostert's going to rise up draft boards. Javonte Williams is going to finally start to rise up draft boards. That's the preseason action. There's a lot of questions. I want to get through some of this stuff here first, and we'll get to some of these questions. I want to show you guys the draft. Here's the draft from the weekend. There's a lot here to take in. I will share the link to the draft. I'll share that here with you guys in just a second if you wanted to get your own look for yourself. I picked in the 5 spot. I went off the board a little bit. I'll be honest with you. The draft froze for me at 4, and I was waiting to pick, and all of a sudden it was in the 9 spot, and it took me Travis Kelce. I'm okay with this. It was a little bit outside my comfort zone. This is not something that I would normally do. Travis Kelce is like 8th or 9th for me overall, but you know what? It did give me a little bit of a different feel because I have been doing a lot of Chubb in the first round. You saw Chubb went right after me. So let's mix it up a little bit. And that's exactly what we did here. So I'm going to post the link for those that are watching in the YouTube channel here, FTN Network. A shout out to everyone here. We had Alan from RotoWire, stepmom Lauren, of course, from FTN. We had Hill County there. Jim Country was running the show here. We had my guy Michael Florio from NFL Network, Win Daily in the house. We had the King, Scott Angle, in here as well. So a lot of people here, a lot of sharp minds, and I'm pretty happy with how this went. So if you're listening to iTunes and Spotify, I'll read off the first 2 rounds for you, but hop on over to our FTN Network YouTube page if you want to see the rest of the draft and the rest of the draft board as I posted the link here, and we're showing it live. now on Game Plus. So Justin Jefferson, pick 1. This is a PPR league, defense kickers, 1 flex, 1 quarterback there, and some good guys that just didn't get drafted, like John Mechie. I don't think went. I had some guys in my queue like Mechie, Alec Pierce, Puka Nakua, who, by the way, is going to be a thing this year for the Rams. Michael Wilson is another guy. Again, these guys, people are talking them up now because they see certain things in preseason, but these have been our favorite targets all year long, late round targets. Justin Jefferson, Christian McCaffrey, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill. So Travis Kelce, myself, Nick Chubb, Austin Eckler. Cooper Kupp falls to 8. 2, Michael Florio, Stephon Diggs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson, another guy, we talked with Jake. One nice one-handed catch, getting a lot of work with the ones. This isn't surprising when you spend that kind of draft capital on a guy like Bijan Robinson. You're going to use him, and he's going to get all the work that he can handle this year, even with Tyler Algier sprinkled in as well. Saquon Barkley there to round out round 1. CeeDee Lamb to start round 2. Devontae Adams, Tony Pollard, AJ Brown, Garrett Wilson, Patrick Mahomes. Touch early, but these things happen. 4-point passing league, by the way. Derrick Henry, Chris Olave to myself, in the same tier for me, Olave, Higgins, Waddle, and Devontae Smith. But I guess the difference between, Olave and those other guys is those other guys are like 1Bs on their squad. Higgins with Chase and Waddle with Tyreek and Devontae Smith, who, by the way, had more catches than A.J. Brown from week 2 to week 18. It has to do with A.J. Brown there. But Olave, I do believe, will be the alpha there for the Saints. Then you get into round 3, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Josh Jacobs, so falling there to the 3rd, Najee Harris, Calvin Ridley to myself, who I have moved up a touch, just seeing the usage from Christian Kirk. Unsure if he's going to get on the field in 2 wide receiver sets. We know that Ridley certainly is. Justin Fields, if I could rewind, maybe I would go DJ and get Fields off. It doesn't matter. Like, we're not stacking here, but Fields, Mark Andrews, Jonathan Taylor, DK Metcalf, Lamar Jackson, Mixon, and Gibbs. So there's the draft, not tight end premium. We are starting 3 wide receivers, and we're starting 2 backs, and we have a flex in there. But again, like I said, NBA rig, just the way that the draft happened there, it got me Kelce, and I'm all right with that. I mean, I don't have to worry about tight end. I'll say it was actually a really nice feeling not to worry about taking a tight end and not having to think what tight end I was going to take between rounds, I don't know, like 8 and 14. It was just like I had to double check a couple times, like, oh yeah, I do have Travis Kelce. I don't really need to take another tight end here. So it was a good feeling, and getting Trevor Lawrence, it was a good feeling too. And pairing him up there with Calvin Ridley. Here's the rest of the squad: Kelce, Olave, Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, Trevor Lawrence, Cam Akers. I was thrilled to get Cam Akers as my RB1 in the 6th round. Javonte Williams, again, don't need to dive into him, but just draft him. David Montgomery, happy to have him as my 3rd back as well. Quentin Johnson, Jerick McKinnon, Jonathan Mingo, Roschon Johnson, Damian Harris. Again, like Damian Harris falling to the 13th round, outside RB 45 at the position. There comes a point where, yeah, I like James Cook too. I think he's the guy to own, but there comes a point where some of these guys, they turn into decent values. And I think Harris was there at 13.5. Jaden Reed, Steelers defense, Gano there as the pick. So I do see Javonte Williams over Swift and Penny. Absolutely, 100%. I have Javonte Williams as like RB20. I got Gainwell ranked ahead of Penny, and I have Swift in the 30s. It's a nice draft, but lots of questions. What questions do you have, Rush_man? Ask them, and they will be answered here. I guess the questions, if I'm dissecting my squad, is, I'm a little thin at the running back position. I don't have, that alpha running back 1. But something I've talked a lot about on this show is getting Chubb. If you're just joining, I froze there at pick 5. I would have taken Nick Chubb. It's not the end of the world. I still like my running backs: Akers, Devontae, David Montgomery. If Montgomery fills that Jamal Williams role, Jamal Williams led the NFL in red zone rushing attempts last year and rushing touchdowns. Dave Montgomery's a good back, and he's in a better situation in Detroit than he was in Chicago. A much better offensive line. Jerick McKinnon had 9 receiving touchdowns last year. I like Pacheco, but Jerick McKinnon's certainly going to have a role. I want to leave my draft with one of McKinnon or Pacheco. Roschon Johnson, I think, is like a guy that will trend up in the second half of the season that could potentially be a league winner. And Damian Harris, as I mentioned, could fall into 8 rushing touchdowns there in the 13th round. Not too bad. But yeah, I don't have an alpha wide receiver, really. Olave, Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, Travis Kelce. do different things, draft a tight end early, maybe a quarterback early, get yourself different feel and different vibes. I still would stay true to my hero RB strategy, punt RB2, have one anchor running back, whether that is Nick Chubb, and then get yourself an alpha wide receiver and kind of build that way, dive back into the running backs in round 6, 7, or 8. But I mean, there's so many question marks at the running back position. Like, I don't want Walker. I'm not interested in Breece Hall. I love Rachaad White. J.K. Dobbins, I'm concerned about. I've moved him down my rankings. He's just not on the field at the moment. I just don't like it. I think Baltimore is one of those teams that could sign Lenny Fournette or Kareem Hunt. Akers, great value. Pacheco, great value. Madison, I think, could be a timeshare by week 4 or 5. Swift, I'm not interested in. Javonte, I like. James Conner, good value here. Raheem Mostert, good value here. Dave Montgomery, Khalil Herbert, I like. Gibson, I like. Not into Penny. I think Kenneth Gainwell is going to, at the end of the day, I think we get into week 10 or week 12, and Kenneth Gainwell is the guy there. And then Cook, timeshare committee, Jamal Williams, when good for the first couple weeks and probably has a role all year, but we've always seen Alvin Kamara as a top 12 running back, and he's missed time and he's had timeshares. He's had to deal with Taysom Hill and stuff like that. But Alvin Kamara is a top 20 back and upside to be a top 12. We should know that. Samaje Perine here, Kenneth Gainwell, I think good values. Deuce Vaughn, maybe a touch early, but I think could be interesting as a pass catching role. And I like the left side team here who avoided running backs. Team number 1 here, Allen, ended up avoiding running backs as well and got some good backs. White, Cook, Mostert. Tank Bigsby there, Jeff Wilson late, so 2 Miami backs there for him. So yeah, I see a lot of comments. No, that's cool. No, I like it. All good. Olave Alpha number 1, not personal. Just nothing personal here at all, dude. I didn't mean it that way at all. So you can ask any questions that you want, and this is why we're doing it. This is why we're showing the draft. Olave is Alpha 1. Yeah, well, I think he could be. He's really the only guy inside the top 10 in target in air yards and ADOT among guys with 60 plus targets. I think Derek Carr's got a better deep ball here. Jerry Jeudy underperforms. Yeah, I'm not crazy about Jerry Jeudy, honestly, but as my third wide receiver, I think that's okay. I don't know. I like Akers. I think last year there was some weird things going on. Of course, he was coming back from an Achilles injury. He was in the doghouse for Sean Payton, but at the end of the day, I mean, he wrapped up with 3 straight 100-yard games. There's no competition in LA. This is completely his backfield, and they've bolstered the offensive line a touch. So I think Akers is, I think he's a rock solid RB2. Of course, he's my 1, but I got Javonte Williams there as well. No, I like it, man. I like you bringing up these questions because it's a good conversation to have as well. Ridley been off. I mean, we've only seen Ridley, 5 games in 3 years. So I totally understand the question marks that we could have, but let's not forget about the 1,400 yards and, nearly double-digit touchdowns that he had. He was 3rd in end zone targets that big season he had before the suspension and where he missed the whole season. But Ridley with Trevor Lawrence, and I am concerned about Kirk, and I know they paid all that money for Kirk, and I really like Christian Kirk as a player. I mean, again, they paid all that money to Christian Kirk, but man, if he's not going to be on the field and 2 wide receiver sets and they trust Zay Jones over him, that's a big bummer. That's not something you want to see. And Calvin Ridley's a guy that they went out and got, and Calvin Ridley has a higher ceiling and certainly can be an alpha. We saw when Julio Jones left and he got top coverage. When he got top coverage, he was still he passed all tests for me. So there's some concerns for sure. There's a lot of guys in this range that I like that, I like Christian Watson. I like DJ Moore. It just didn't work out that way for me. Moore and Watson went ahead and Cooper in there. I've been taking some Murray Cooper ahead of Ridley, but I wanted to diversify my shares just a touch here. Let's get into a couple things. There's one thing we're going to wrap up here. I know we're going a little bit long, but we had a power outage there. So I think we lost like 8 or 9 minutes on the video. We got Pacheco. I want to give him a little bit of love here. These are our projections over at ftnfantasy.com. We have him for 179 attempts, 823 rushing yards, 4.9 rushing touchdowns, 29 targets, 22 grabs, 170 receiving yards. That's good for RB 29 in a half-point setting. Now, some of the numbers that we have Pacheco projected for, and this is courtesy of Jeff Ratcliffe. He's a little bit conservative with some of his rankings, or his projections rather, but this is basically what Pacheco did last year. Last year, he had 170 carries. He had 830 rushing yards. He had 5 touchdowns, and he wasn't really involved through the air at all. In fact, the first 10 games from Pacheco, he hardly caught the rock. And this was a guy toward the end of the season where he was catching the football a little bit more. So you see the note on the right. He averaged 14 carries and 70 rushing yards from week 10 to week 18 in a half-point setting that was good enough for RB17. And what I will say is that not only did he start to get more involved on the ground towards the end of last season, he started to come away with a few more catches as well. 10 catches in his last 7 games doesn't seem like a lot, but only 3 catches in his first 10 games. And he also finished the regular season with 4 rushing touchdowns in his final 7 games. And then the playoffs happened on the biggest stage, under the bright lights, when it all matters, especially in the Super Bowl. 15 for 76, had a touchdown, a big run. He had 197 yards on 37 carries, and he caught 6 of his 7 targets in the playoffs as well. So I do believe, as you see, that he will return value. I have him as RB23, and he is roughly going as RB30 over at Underdog Fantasy and high stakes leagues as well. And we have him projected for roughly an RB30 finish, but he already did that. He had those numbers on the left when he was behind the 8 ball. He's a 7th round pick by KC. Had to deal with CEH and McKinnon. He learned the playbook halfway through. He earned those touches. He was trending up. I think he's a guy that could average, 12 to 14 carries. And if he does average 12 to 14 carries, he's going to top these numbers on the left. And the fact that he's on the field running more routes this year in training camp, he's more familiar with the playbook. You got to think about it. This time last year, he was just like, trying to familiarize himself with the NFL and the playbook, and he Reid and Mahomes. And now, having won the Super Bowl and on the field and in close games protecting Mahomes, now he's more comfortable with the playbook in year 2. With Mahomes, they trust him. They trust him inside the red zone. They trust him in third down situations. And Andy Reid has just done such a good job with all of his running backs. I know he doesn't have the same type of upside as LaShawn McCoy, Brian Westbrook, Jamal Charles, like Kareem Hunt. But Andy Reid is such a good play caller. It is a pass-happy offense. They like to pass a little bit more than they run inside the red zone, all those things. But I think Pacheco, for those that like to have the hero RB or punt RB2 strategy, I think he makes for what is a really, really fine target here. Can CEH get 10% of the touches? I don't think so. I think CEH has got 1 foot out the door. I think that's it, man. I think he is completely gone. And I like McKinnon. Elite pass catcher, though. Absolutely. This is all true. But if you're looking for some running backs between round 6 and 10 with some upside, I think both of those guys, don't draft them together. You can lean McKinnon in a full point PPR league, maybe Pacheco in a standard half point setting. But I think they're both solid targets linked to a good offense. There'll be some highs and some lows. McKinnon's not going to have 9 receiving touchdowns. He'll have some spike weeks. But I like both of those guys. No, it doesn't. The fact that it has kind of created a little bit of a buy window, it doesn't worry me at all. They'll ease him in. There's no need to get him in there. He has taken some hits to the shoulder. I see him out there running routes, catching passes from Mahomes, and I'm not worried about it at all. I don't think CEH is a thing. I would have gone Aaron Jones instead of Judy, just my own preference. Yeah, I get it. You more balanced attack, get a running back in there. I'm a little concerned about Aaron Jones. Just the 6 rushing touchdowns in the last 2 years. He's not going to be the goal line back there. It's going to be AJ Dillon. He's a really good back, but I am a little concerned here. Okay, I think we hit on just about everything I wanted to hit on besides tight ends. And I think for the people that are hanging out here live, we'll rapid fire through this, and maybe we'll dive into a little bit deeper tomorrow. Tier 1, Kelsey, no surprise. Tier 2, Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson, who was on pace for 102 catches last season, just accounting for his games in Minnesota, played 10 games, averaged 6 catches per game, was used differently, not deep down the field, but was used way more than he was used in Detroit. Immediately became the number 2 behind Justin Jefferson, ahead of Adam Thielen. A lot of end zone targets for him, a lot of red zone targets, a lot of double-digit catch games and target games from him. I would not be shocked if he finished ahead of Mark Andrews. Those guys are in the same tier for me. We get into tier 3. George Kittle, Darren Waller, Dallas Goedert, Kyle Pitts, Evan Ingram. I think Ingram's going to come back a touch when you add a guy like Calvin Ridley and you still got Zay Jones on the field and you still have Christian Kirk and Travis Etienne. there's a lot going on there. So it's just natural to think that Ingram will come down a touch. Kyle Pitts, let's not forget about the rookie campaign that he had. It is going to be a run-first offense in Atlanta. They're going to run the rock quite a bit with Algier behind Bijan Robinson. But Kyle Pitts, he'll get his looks coming off a significant injury. I'm not totally loving this range. I either go for a tight end early or I just wait it out. And I think that's the strategy to take in fantasy football. As I said, it does feel good having maybe a Waller, a Kittle, certainly one of these guys as well. It's a good feeling. And then you just set it and forget it every week. Every week, you're not messing around. You're starting Andrews, Hawkinson, Kelsey. You're going to start Kittle, Waller, Goddard. Pitts last year, we weren't starting him. And it's not because he burned me last year, but I'm just not going to go down that road again. I just don't think there's enough volume in this pass attack for the Falcons. I just don't fully believe in Ritter either. Waller, no surprise to see him. He was the first read on Daniel Jones' first 3 throws in the preseason game. If he could stay healthy, he's going to flirt with 100 catches as well, but he is over 30 and he's had back-to-back unhealthy seasons. But Darren Waller is the one giant that you want outside of Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones, but there's just multiple wide receivers. The offense is going to remind me of KC. It's like Kelsey and everybody else. It's going to be Waller and everybody else. I like Sky Moore. I think Rashee Rice has got a ceiling. We'll see Isaiah Hodgins, maybe Jalen Hyatt. There's not going to be a lot of consistency with these other guys. Darren Waller is going to eat as long as he stays healthy. Dallas Goedert, he's a stud, but he is the number 3 in Philadelphia. We get a little bit deeper here into the tier that I've been living in. Pat Freiermuth, David Njoku, Dalton Schultz, Dalton Kincaid, Chico Okonkwo, Cole Kmet, and Sam Laporta. All of these guys are tight ends that I think will finish with 100 fantasy points. As for Okonkwo, 2.61 yards per route run last year was the best mark among tight ends. Kelsey was 2.23. Now, I get it. It's a small sample size. We can't compare him to Travis Kelsey, but 7.8 yards after the catch, T1 at the position. 14.1 yards per catch, number 1 at the tight end position. He's not going to block. Love to see him out there in 11 personnel. Treylon Burks, not 100% at the moment. A lot of attention to DeAndre Hopkins. I still like Chico Okonkwo a lot. And I think he's a freak athlete. I think he's going to run a ton of routes. I think he's explosive after the catch. I think he can be a red zone target when everybody's doubling DeAndre Hopkins. Of course, you got Henry to punch it in, but this team is going to play from behind this year. I know they want to run the rock, rely on their pass rush, but ultimately their secondary's got a lot of holes. Teams are going to throw all over them like they did last year, and they're going to have to throw the rock. Cole Kmet dealing with DJ Moore coming in, but I don't think Claypool or Meaney should be on your radar at all. I think Cole Kmet could be interesting, and Sam Laporta could be interesting right off the hop, because Jameson Williams is not only dealing with an injury, but he's suspended for the first 6 weeks of the season. And we're not crazy about Josh Reynolds or Khalif Raymond or Marvin Jones. Like, these guys are not going to be solid number 2 options. I think Laporta is going to be a sneaky good tight end right off the hop. Into tier 5. Tyler Higbee, 70 catches last year when Cooper Kupp went down, should be the number 2. I am interested in Nakua, and I'm interested in Van Jefferson as late dart throws, but Higbee he's undervalued. Juwan Johnson, ton of touchdowns last year. We know Carr likes his tight ends. Jimmy G dealing with something. Foster Moreau, cool story, but Juwan Johnson, Michael Thomas has missed 10 of the Saints. Actually, Michael Thomas played 10 of the Saints last 50 games, so Juwan Johnson may have a role, especially inside the red zone. And Chris Olave, he's not the biggest wideout. I like him deep down the field, but I don't know how involved he will be inside the red zone. Gerald Everett, Greg Dulcich, as I said, I moved down here a little bit. Not moving Troutman over him, but I am concerned with what I've seen here in the preseason. And for Musgrave, I mean, there's a real opportunity for this guy to play a lot of snaps, and he's running a lot of routes on the dropbacks from Jordan Love. And then we'll wrap up here. As George said, you didn't really need tier 6 here. You didn't need these guys, but we got them there anyways for you. Hunter Henry, Cade Otton, I think, is sneaky. Jake Ferguson needs to be on your radar. Deeper formats, maybe you're playing 2 tight ends, deepest formats of all formats. But Jake Ferguson, there's a role here. Dalton Schultz, right? I mean, significant role he played last year. There's a role here for Ferguson, at least early on at the moment. I like what I've seen from him in camp, what I'm hearing. Mike Gesicki, I got Hunter Henry ahead of him. Both of those guys, I mean, they're just going to intertwine between each other week in and week out. Michael Mayer, just a lot going on at the moment. Rookie tight end. The path isn't as clear for him as it is for Dalton Kincaid and for Laporta. Trey McBride, Noah Fant, Jelani Woods, Otton, Ferguson could all be interesting for me. Tyler Conklin, Logan Thomas is some veteran tight ends there towards the end of your draft as well, but there's some rookies on squads that could surprise some people and certainly pass a guy like Logan Thomas. Yeah, I think that's it. Jelani Woods is just like a freak, a big beast, big body. I know there's a lot of tight ends going on there, but I wouldn't be shocked if he had a mini breakout season. And Cade Otton, I just think, is a really good tight end, but how much volume is going to be there when you got Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, and it's not Tom Brady, and they're going to scale it back a little bit. They're going to run the rock more than they did last season. And then we'll show you the projections on the way out, just to show you FTN Fantasy.com projections. As you see here, we do have a few guys that I had in my tier that I thought would get 100 points, like Njoku, Freiermuth, Schultz. I have a lot of Dalton Schultz. I think, he could be the one. Him and Nico Collins going to get a lot of targets this year. Dalton Kincaid has looked, no surprise. He kind of reminds me of Travis Kelce. He runs great routes, good hands, great after the catch. I know rookie tight ends don't have a significant role immediately, and they have Dawson Knox on the squad, but they're starving for somebody to step up after Stephon Diggs, especially in the slot. He could fill in that Cole Beasley role. Dalton Kincaid is he's trending up at the moment for sure. Conco, Laporta, Kmet in there as well. We went super long. On this show. I think we hit up on everything. I know there's some questions here. Hayden Hurst, number 30, is a slander. It's all the same tier. They're all the same, right? They're all projected to do the same thing. You're not starting any of those guys in your single tight end league. It's all good. Ferguson is getting some nice noise these days. He is. He surprised me last year in some moments as well when Dalton Schultz was suffered the injury. Yeah, so we'll see. I think I hit up everything here. Yeah, I did some extra stuff just because you guys are hanging out. I don't know if there's any questions that I didn't get to. We do want to wrap up here in just a little bit. I think there was a question I saw earlier. Here is one. Have a question. We have a super flex league, 14 members. The IDPs are appropriate time to draft first defense guy. I would wait it out. I'm in the same type of league. There's certainly some high upside guys that you could take, but it's not for me. I'm not thinking about that until kind of super late, and you can kind of ride it out with like some good matchups. I'll come at you with some IDP rankings a little bit later on in the week. How about that? And we can figure it out. But I would wait it out. I don't know if that's a 14 team league, 16 rounds. I wouldn't be doing it any time before the 12th round. And people want to take even when JJ Watt was a stud, people want to take him in the 8th round. Go ahead. Be my guest, take him in the 8th round. I'm taking, these rookie wide receivers, these next up running backs, and just covering my bases that way. There's going to be a lot of good players on the waiver wire that you can pick up. Like a Trey Edmonds is a guy that is just, I picked up the other day after one of my drafts, and I think he could fall into a ton of tackles this year. So Frozen Chris, let's go. All right, we got to get out of here. George's been hanging around too long. We've gone way too long. Appreciate all you guys here for the comments, the questions. Sorry about the show. It was a little bit off the rails, but we do appreciate you. Rush_man, you're a goat. Thank you. All right, we'll talk to you soon. George, get us out of here. We'll be back tomorrow with some more football talk. Cheers.
Hi, I'm Christian Greenwood, and this is My Nova Scotia. Enjoy amazing live music around Halifax at the TV Halifax Jazz Festival, July 8th to the 16th. From July 17th to the 24th, it's the Halifax Pride Festival. And if you're like me, you can never get enough golf. It's the best way to see some of Nova Scotia's most beautiful scenery. Visit novascotia.com to plan your vacation. Our greens are awesome. So when are you coming?